mother of 4 was left homeless after a pastor told her to sell a house and give him the money in exchange for blessings from God. This incident is not isolated, with reports of fly-by-night churches stealing from the poor all over the country. President Haugie Geingob urged the Council of Churches to step in and prevent these institutions from mushrooming. Who is responsible for protecting believers? We speak to Jurgen Brand from Christian Family Church. Tonight in studio with us we have Pastor Jurgen Brand from the Christian Family Church. Welcome, Jurgen.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Cool, man. Jurgen, let's get right into it. There's been a lot of media coverage about false prophets, people who are coming into Namibia from different countries, even Namibians themselves, ripping Christians off, using their spiritual leadership for personal gain.
Yeah.
Now, why are we seeing this happening so much at the moment? And is this a new thing?
Well, Anna, it's definitely not a new thing. I think it's been around for a very long time. I think Namibia has just been seeing an increase of this trend happening. And I think it happens because people see that Namibians are still unaware of the opportunities that they take. The Namibians still are readily at a place where they can see when people are false. But I think mostly they call themselves prophets and so forth, but in the end of the day, they're just normal people that see a gap, like Nigerian con men that send you an email to deposit the money in their bank account. It's the same kind of setup. They just see that Christians and vulnerable people, they're a market.
So they're taking advantage of a naive nation, in other words.
Exactly.
So it's very much like any other scam. It's not particularly religious.
No.
All right.
The religious is just the ploy or the cover that people then use to take that opportunity.
Trust.
That's it. Because if you come with God and you come with, it's all about Jesus and stuff like that, and people automatically think that you're good and they can trust you.
Okay, but now we've also got two very different types of false prophets. On the one hand, we've got this media report of this lady selling her house and then giving all her money to the supposed pastor. Now, these guys seem to operate in a vacuum with no support structures.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier to pinpoint them. But then on the other hand, we have churches mushrooming all over the country.
Yeah.
And the Council of Churches are struggling to keep their hands, around this issue. You get something that they call televangelists.
Yes.
There was also a big uproar with this Malawian prophet Bushiri coming into the country, and because of his fame and his fortune, people tend to flock to him.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. People who are really church leaders and churches who are taking advantage of people.
Yeah. So the difficult thing, Anna, in the first place is, number one, it's really difficult to pinpoint who's in it for real and who's in it for their own gain. Because like you say, there's a mushrooming of churches. In general, that would be a good thing. Because what churches stand for is community upliftment, sharing the love, helping orphans, helping widows, enabling people to get healed from past hurts, and just general day-to-day assistance. So it would be a good thing if churches...
If there was more of that.
If there was more of that. But now the problem is churches mushroom, and then there's this financial implication, and there's no governance. And also what happens is, what we found is, we started a network in the country of churches that could become part of our church, because we've realized there's a lot of young people, a lot of young pastors that decide one day, I want to be a pastor, so let me start a church. But there's no one guiding that person. There's no one helping him along the road. There's no one giving input into his life. So, for example, we have a network that keeps those people accountable. And I think something like that, and I think the Council of Churches, they aspire to something like that, but I think it's very hard for them. I think they have a lack of resources, they have lack of manpower. And
it's cross-denominational, which is also a little bit harder.
It's very hard. So, but back to the thing about the
sorry, I just want to talk about governance. So your church, for instance, what you do is you make sure that the people, your flock, the message that you're spreading is all a responsible message. And you make sure that everyone that falls under your umbrella is not going to, take that fellowship and abuse it.
Absolutely.
But there's no such law in our Constitution.
No.
There's nothing really to keep churches accountable to that extent.
No, unfortunately, there's nothing that can keep it accountable, which is why we have said, look, there are systems in place, like, for example, a church can be registered as a non-profit organization or an Article 21 company. So you can register it with the ministry, but apart from that, and obviously you have to be registered with the Ministry of the Ministry of Finance even though you don't pay tax necessarily. But also, if you're employing people, you have to be registered as an employer. So you have to go to Social Security, all of these things. Those are also systems that can be put in place.
All right.
But now you have a small little church, and they're 20 people. They're not employing someone, it's just a pastor. And he just has a heart to help people. I'm talking about the goodos now. And for them, it's really hard because they also don't know where to go and what to do. But now, the con men, they see the gap. And they see the opportunity. And they see that, oh, it's so easy to start a church. And then they quickly start a church. And then quickly, the thing becomes all about the money, which is exclamation mark, whoop, whoop, warning sign number one.
All right.
If it's about the money, every week about the money, and you give to money and money will help you, no. And if people promote the message about money, then already there's a warning sign.
But I mean, if we look at the type of people who've been falling victim to fraudsters and to men of God that pose to be something that they're not, these tend to be often very impoverished people, other than this lady who had a house now.
Yeah.
They're impoverished, desperate people.
Absolutely.
So you're saying that because of the poverty and because of that level of desperation, Namibian people are more vulnerable?
They're very vulnerable. And that would be the same in every place in Africa, which is why you get these all over Africa.
Yes.
But I mean, you can imagine someone that's in a desperate situation. You come with him and you say, I have an answer. I have a solution to your problem. If you give me money, then I'm going to ask God for a blessing. And he's going to bless you with this and this. And look what the word says. And they manipulate. And so desperate people are definitely more prone.
Now, before we come to, those key aspects that define you as a false prophet, because, I mean, we need to talk about that. I just quickly want to get back to the Bushiri incident. The Council of Churches said that they have no authority to stop these people from coming into our country and from gaining financially. But, I mean, that also doesn't mean that they're not bringing a good message, necessarily. So, are we going to see more Bushiris in Namibia, do you think?
Well, I think that's up to the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration, and also the Council of Churches, because here's the difficult thing. Who decides who comes and who doesn't come? You understand? So anyone can come in under a holiday visa and come and share a message. But now, if there's money involved, and especially in the scope of what happened with that incident, then somehow there should be some form of control.
There should be accountability,
Which is, I mean, even the president commented and he said, look, something's not right here. We need to make an audit into this thing and find out what happened to that money.
Definitely.
So I think, look, if you have someone from South Africa coming, we bring guest speakers from South Africa for our conferences because our church is also affiliated with network churches there. You know what? Then we arrange the thing, it's all done, but there's no big money seen. We pay for their ticket, we pay for their time, everything is covered. They don't come and they don't rake up hundreds of thousands.
I mean, unfortunately, right today still, it's really up to the community to decide which message is worth it and which message is honest and earnest and which isn't.
Exactly.
All right. Which brings us to the next very important question. Now, if someone suspects that they are, being ripped off by someone who says that they're a man of God, what are the telltale signs of a false prophet? I know that the Bible also gives us some guidelines.
He gives us guidelines. Jesus says that false prophets will come and you will find them. It's a given. So it's going to happen. Here are the things. He says that what you do is you look at their fruit. Okay, so fruit meaning just their way of life, the way they live, and what are the things that they show.
So not just the message, but
not
who
the
they
message, who they are.
Right.
It's so easy to say, this is who I am, but is that really who you are? Okay. So you look at their life, you look at their lifestyle, you look at the way they live. Do they live what they're preaching? Yes or no? Okay, that's your first indication. Indication number 2 is, like I said, the money warning. If there's a big focus on money, if there's very much a focus on prosperity, the focus on, I'm going to sell you D, E, F, and G, and it's going to bring you A, B, and C, warning sign. Okay.
I'm just going to stop you there because, well, some people also believe that, if God has blessed me in my leadership, then I should be able to show my blessings by buying a big car and by inspiring others. But you're saying it's not just the money. If the people are focusing just on the money, that's where the alarm bells are.
Yeah, that's already an alarm bell. Right. So the big money thing is a problem because that's not really the gospel Jesus preached. It's not really what he stood for. It's not really, he was God himself. He could have raked up all the money in the world and had a palace. But he said, you know what, I don't really have a house. I don't even have a place to sleep tonight. Do you really want to follow me? So, no, this is the thing. I'm not saying pastors can't drive a car. I drive a car. I have to rent a house. I have to live.
But there's a level of humility.
But there's a level of humility, and I'm also not saying pastors can't have a nice car. Because what if someone comes along and one of your congregation members blesses you with a car? Do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm saying is I would be careful of a mega focus on prosperity and a mega focus on if you give money, then God will. Because it's not true. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, if you give money, then God will. And sure, I can twist it and I can make it sound wonderful. But the thing is this.
So it's like a conditional messaging that they're teaching.
Absolutely.
Conditional blessing almost.
Conditional
You
thing.
do this, then God will do this.
Then God will do that.
All right. And you don't believe that that's right?
Well, I don't see it. I don't see it in Scripture.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So then next morning, like I said, first of all, it's their lifestyle. And then the next thing that you can look at also is that what they're saying and that what they're doing, can I see it in the Bible? If you're a Christian, and that's why you're there, then your best and your most important guideline is God's Word. Do I see holy oil and blessed water and special this and special that for sale? Do I see that in the Bible? No, I don't see that in the Bible. Do I see if you give me so much money, I will give you a prophetic word for so and so? No, I don't see that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. All
So
right.
that's your first indication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you saying that if it's a very severe extreme case, then we can step in and say we want the Council of Churches or the police to get involved?
Absolutely.
But before then, we try and deal with it as a community.
That's it.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jurgen, for the interview. Thank you, viewers, for joining us on One Exclusive. Catch us again next week, Monday at 6:30.